all educational, but today it's going to be a little different, I guess, from the previous ones. We're going to learn a little bit of how media has influenced each generation, how we've used media and technology in each generation, and what can we do with this knowledge to then move forward, to then keep marketing, keep doing our media. How can we strengthen our media tactics for each generation that we're going to talk about? So as you all know, today's presentation is generations in media, and I'm going to get to the point because I already only have 12 minutes left, 11 minutes left, because as you know, this is not a 2-hour long presentation. This is a quick 20-minute presentation that I want you to just take it all in, play with it on your brain, and then go out there and take some sort of action. This is not a 60 to 100-minute lecture. These are just nuggets, power nuggets of information for media. So we're going to get right into it with today's presentation. Sorry, I didn't prepare all the little details this time. So let me repeat myself. Like I said, in order for us to talk about generations, first we need to understand where each generation, their timelines, their ages, what they went through, what they learned, how they experienced. And like I said, then we're going to go into how they experienced technology and what they did with it in media. Because a lot of media things is technology. So we have our boomer generation, our Gen X, millennials, and Gen Zs. We have our boomer generation, which is, probably the oldest generation we have. Yes, there is an older generation, but we're going to talk about the current 5 generations that we are coexisting. We have the boomer generation, which was born in 1946 to 1964. Their ages as of right now are 58 through 76 years old. We have Gen X, 1965 to 1980, and this is probably a lot of our parents, boomers, probably a lot of our grandparents. I know my parents are Gen X. 1965 to 1980, ages 42 to 57. Millennials, 1981 to 1986, ages 26 to 41. Gen Zs, 97 to 2012, ages 10 through 25. And Gen Alpha, Gen A, it's Gen Alpha, born 2012 to present day. And that is ages 9 and under. I was going to say over. 9 and under. So, by the way, somebody asked me if they could have a copy of the presentation. Please let me know if you want a copy. I can send you this information, save you a couple minutes of research. This is all information that has been researched. This is not my opinion. These are all facts. This is all coming from reliable resources. So, again, this is kind of how the generations break down. And like I said, this is not a 2-hour presentation. We're not going to get in and talk about each generation, but we are going to discuss here how they experience technology, how they experience media. So we're going to start with, I think Gen X is going to be my first one. Gen X and boomer generation, because before then, again, media was a little different, yet Gen X and the boomer generation experienced this huge boom in media at the same time. And one of the biggest, prior to that, there was a lot of publishing, a lot of print, but visual media, which is what we're talking about, video, visual, and also audio. We're going to talk about how each one experienced it. So we have Gen X and boomers. They were the generation that grew up watching and listening to technology. And not just them. Keep in mind that this information is also other generations. My generation grew up watching and listening to technology, but this generation this is how they were experiencing media and technology. Only a few people were able to either be on the radio or to be creating content for television. I don't remember because I didn't grow up then, but I do remember my grandma's TV, and I think it only had 3 channels. It had 3 channels, so there was 3 major TV networks that were creating content and putting stuff out there. And this is why commercials were really powerful. If you wanted to impact an audience, you would create a commercial, put it on TV, and you knew that people were going to watch it no matter what, and they would listen to it. So this is how they were experiencing media. They were also listening. I put the picture of like the radio because also I remember stories my grandma telling us they would sit in front of their radios and listen to radio. I think even my dad says that. They would sit and listen to radio stories and in españoles, radionovelas. You know, back in the days, they didn't watch novelas or soap operas. They would listen to them, which is really cool because now that's making a comeback. I feel like me and Delia, my wife, we listen to some podcasts that are literally like, they are telling some really cool stories, and they're bringing that back. So Gen X and the Boomer generation, this is how they experienced and interacted with media and technology. We're going to move on to millennials. Millennials, we grew up a little bit more with our hands. We were touching technology. It was the birth of the more consumer-friendly computer. It was the birth of video games that were able to be brought home, because before that, video games were, you had to go to the arcade to play a video game. And now we grew up in a generation in the 90s where Game Boys were a thing. You know, Nintendos were coming home, computers were coming home. It was, you know, we had more access to this technology and to this media that we were able to touch it. But again, as we got older, you know, cell phones became touchscreen. So we were touching and poking buttons. So we're a really, in a way, touchy generation with iPads, keypads, all those sorts of things. And again, I'm talking about, yes, other generations also experienced this because security keypads were there before and telephones were there, but it was more how we were interacting with these new screens. You know, we were sitting in front of, I have a picture of the mom actually playing with the Game Boy, and as the kids are watching, and we were the ones on the computers playing computer games. And we were the first generation to take, you know, computer literacy classes in school. I remember taking a typing class, you know, because now I feel like it's a norm. You know, we were exposed to Excel, Word, and we started playing around with other types of editing medias. We still didn't have all this technology in our pockets, which eventually, towards the tail end of our generation, that technology was able to be fit in our pockets via cell phones, via iPads, and via those things. So we grew up, that's why I said we grew up touching technology. The next generation we have Gen Zs who grew up making the technology. And not just the technology, but the media. And like I said, again, it is because they have and had more access to this technology to create media. You know, when I said Boomers and Gen X, only a selected few individuals were able to create video content to then be put on TV. And now Gen Zs in our generation, everybody's making content. You know, we all have a camera. We have this beautiful technology right now. Like what I'm doing right now, it was impossible a couple years ago, decades ago. You know, only a select few. It was so expensive, but now the technology has become more accessible. You know, now we have the generation of students learning robotics in school, learning how to code in, you know, 6th grade, 7th grade, whereas before only a select few individuals, only a select few universities offer those types of programs. So again, it is becoming where this generation is growing up making that technology. And then we have Generation Alpha, and this is mind-blowing. I was talking with Delia about this and how they are the generation that they are talking to technology. You know, yes, before we had microphones that we can talk to, and we had cameras and camcorders, but now we have kids talking to devices like Alexa, Echoes. They have the little watches that they can talk to. That's why I have these pictures. And it's just so interesting to know how our generations, how different generations, how we've been exposed to these types of technologies. Something that really caught my attention was, I always wonder why our older generations are not comfortable making content. When I say making content is so easy, and I can talk to teenagers and they're like, yes, making content, it's so easy. And this has to do with how we grew up, our generations grew up exposed to technology. Older generations did not grow up with access to making content every day. Yes, maybe they had camcorders or cameras, but it was more for the special occasions. I remember my parents had a camcorder and they would use it for special occasions like birthday parties or a family vacation, but my dad did not take out the camcorder every day to make videos, and especially he did not let us touch it ever. Eventually, he let me touch one of his cameras, and this is why I'm here now, because I got to play around with one of his cameras. But as more younger generations get to experience and play with this technology to create content, to create media, new jobs are being born, new platforms are being born. So this is what I want to leave with you today. The way our technology, the way the technology is coming to us is a way how not only our generations making content, but it's also how they are being influenced, because it is part of our daily life. Again, going back to Generation Alpha and them talking to Alexas and talking to Siri, it is becoming normal to them. So as they get older, they will be a generation that will talk to technology. That is how they are going to interact with technology. They will talk to it. Whereas I still feel kind of weird talking to Siri or talking to Alexa. First of all, me and Alexa have a huge problem because Alexa does not pick up my accent. For some reason, Alexa loves my wife, but she does not love me. I don't know why, but it's frustrating. And maybe that's why I stopped trying. But again, voice messaging is becoming a thing. How many of you out there are now preferring to do voice messaging? Especially if you use WhatsApp. I know my wife and her family and parts of my other family in Mexico, they love voice messaging because it's so easy that they're like, I'm not gonna type, but I'm also not gonna call you, but I will send you a voice message. So that is really interesting to know and see how people are using technologies nowadays. Now, with this information and this knowledge in your mind, how do you see yourself using this to help your department, to use your ministry? How can you better reach those generations? Is your content being prepared for those generations that are growing up with augmented reality, with virtual reality, with voice messaging? We need to make sure that your SEO for your entity, and I'm going to talk directly to churches right now, and I hope some of you are watching because this is about to take you into the next decade, and this will make sure your church is able to be found. The more information you have and the more you're tagging your information geographically, the easier it will be for people to find you. Because again, people are no longer typing into search engines, people are talking to search engines. So we're saying, Siri, where can I find the church? Siri, where can I find the nearest coffee shop? Where can I find the nearest taco stand? Will you pop up in those search results? And that is the question to you. And if you don't know, or if the answer is no, then maybe we need to start working on that. Now, if the answer is yes, props to you. Please let me know what you're doing. I would love to talk to you about this. I would love to hear what you're doing because I want to search for you and play with that, because I'm always searching for things, because we need to be able, how can people find us? Yes, people will find us if we are in our communities, but they will also find us if we are properly placed on the internet, if we are properly placed in media. So we've talked about creating content to bring awareness of who you are, tell your story, but also know how media has played a big part in people finding us. There is a reason why people used to be on the yellow pages. There is a reason why we believe on sending flyers. There is a reason why we believe in putting radio station commercials. But again, as that is phasing out, how are we preparing for the future? How are we preparing for what is to come? So take that into consideration. And I want to wrap it up for today. This is your nugget for the day. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for coming. And this presentation will stay live for 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I am about to lock the previous one that was available for 2 weeks. I'm about to leave this one open. And eventually all this content will live somewhere. And I hope I will let you know where to find it. But we are already preparing for the next session of 4 presentations. We are looking to have people talk to us about the future of gaming platforms. How can you do ministry? How can you do advertisement? How can you do branding in gaming platforms? Because that is a big future of, that is the reality of things. We're also going to look into working with different generations. How do we, yes, we did a study. We talked about 5 different generations. How can we bring those and work and collaborate one another, learn from each other, teach each other? So that's another one that we're going to be talking about. Okay, we have a question real quick. Let's answer the question and then I'll keep talking about the other stuff. Do you think social media content is more efficient for marketing versus traditional marketing? We're going to display that here. So, great question. But again, there is not one right answer. It's not a yes versus no. It's not a this is better than this. Do you think social media content is more efficient for marketing versus traditional marketing? Here's the thing with social media marketing. Social media marketing can be the same thing as traditional marketing. If I send you a flyer and you get it and you don't know who I am, you're going to toss it in the trash. Now, if you run an ad on social media and I don't know you and I see it, I'm going to scroll right past it. And that is pretty much the equivalent of me grabbing your flyer and throwing it in the trash. So now, if you're bringing more awareness to yourself via social media and then you run a marketing campaign, it will be effective. It will be way more effective than flyers because you are targeting people. But you also have to do the homework before you can run any sort of campaign. Again, that is where awareness comes into play. So I'm glad you asked this question. Like I said, there is no right answer. There is no yes, no. There is no this is better than the other one. But I do recommend you go back to the presentation brand marketing versus direct marketing because we talked about that. But again, like I said, if you are thinking that giving your money to Google and Facebook is going to be more efficient than giving your money to a printer, you're probably wrong. And at the end of the day, you're just giving your money away to these big companies. So we can talk more about that if you want to. Please send me a message. So yeah, like I was saying earlier, we're wrapping up. This is the session. It was a great session. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being part of this pilot program. We will have more sessions. I am currently working on planning the next 4 sessions. And we're going to bring more stuff in regards to marketing. We're going to talk about the importance of fonts, types, design. Why is design so important? And that should be a no-brainer. But design is very important. We're going to talk about maybe even the history of fonts. Where do fonts come? How do fonts play with our emotions and our mindset? We're going to talk a little bit about colors. What do colors have to do with us humans? And all this comes into play when you're building and putting together a beautiful flyer or when you're trying to strategically target an audience. So All those awesome topics are going to be discussed on the next session. Please, please, please share this content with your friends. Share it with whoever you think is going to get value out of it. If you have a friend that's an entrepreneur, you have a friend that's a director of some sort of program, if you have a friend that works in a nonprofit, if you have a friend that's a director, a friend that's a pastor, whoever it is, it doesn't hurt to get this knowledge. So I applaud you all for watching. Thank you for tuning in. It just means that you want to keep learning, and we are all lifelong learners. So please keep tuning in. I will let you know as soon as I have the dates for the next presentations, so you guys can come and watch the presentations, and we'll figure out a way to keep storing all this content. And I actually forgot one last slide. Can't believe I forgot it. So, which one is your target audience, and are you building strategies for these audiences, like we talked about? So, what is your strategy? If you don't know how to build a strategy, let me know. I can help you out. If you don't know who your target audience is, please let me know. Please start working on that. Please start studying your audience so you can be more effective. You can more effectively use your dollars if you're going to pay some sort of marketing, or if you're going to take it into your own hands. You can strategically build these tools and stuff. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you on the next one. Give me 1 second. I'm just checking to make sure my microphone was on whenever I was talking, and it is on. That's why I came back. But yeah, we'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Send me messages, send me DMs if you have any other questions.